The question at hand, should the government solve problems or stay out of the way internally in their nation? Preston, what do you think?
Well, personally, I think we shouldn't just let the problems get worse. So if there's a problem at hand, we should definitely do something about it, at least like announce it to the world to make sure that they know about it.
I would disagree. I would say people help people. The more power you give to a government in order to help can always be abused to hurt. So,
The government is people, though.
correct. People with power more than the average person. People in power. Power always manifests, or almost always manifests, in control. And when there's control, you can't have a successful nation.
What's the checks and balances for then? The whole thing is keeping everything in balance. Make
Okay.
sure nothing goes out of hand. So you can't get one person way more power than everyone else because of that specific system, though.
And the Civil War, there were checks and balances. Abraham Lincoln was still able to violate or remove habeas corpus, and that's the right to know why you're being arrested and what for, and also I'm pretty sure the right to a trial. He was able to suspend that to anyone suspected of supporting the Confederacy, and could jail them without them knowing why. Where's another example? The draft. People didn't have a choice whether they were drafted or not. If you were of a certain age, it was your obligation to help the country. So the checks and balances don't fix all authoritarian actions.
Okay. I can see that for sure, yeah, because I feel like forced things are very conditional on what you should
Exactly.
actually follow through with.
Yeah.
But I just feel like there shouldn't be more than nothing. There should be more than just no interaction at all, but it needs to be that. It's not even a middle ground. It's pretty low, but you should definitely.
I think it should be little to none, almost none.
Almost none. But it still should be some.
I think if there's an example, say the Great Depression happened all over, I think what Herbert Hoover did, at least, he didn't help anyone.
No, he just put in a dam and was like, yeah, we're going to spend all this money on it.
Dig
Here,
holes,
like
fill them
500
in.
people are going to get jobs, and that's it.
Yeah. No, I think the government should step in more then. I just feel the prompt is more of in most scenarios.
In most scenarios, not in times of
Yeah.
problems.
So, and I think, like I said before, power manifests under control. And people can't be trusted with power because humans are naturally flawed.
Right. But in the justice system, how does that work? Isn't it only one person needs to say it for it to be
What do you mean?
overruled? Like, I think it's in the jury. If one person is not in favor of the trial, then it all stops.
I think that's I don't think that's in your average court.
Okay.
I think it's usually majority rules, but in some scenarios, I think that might be the Supreme Court, but I'm not sure.
Because that's usually the higher problems.
Yeah. And the thing is, yeah, sure, there's checks and balances back to that point, but the checks and balances only work as much as the government allows them to. So say, hypothetically, all the Supreme Court justices died when there was a Democratic president. The Democratic president fills them all the spots with Democratic Supreme Court justices, and Congress is filled with Democrats. They're just going to rule for favor of the Democrats, everything they do. That happened in during the big business era in the early 20th century with big business Republicans.
Oh, I thought the fact that we are a democracy makes it so that everything of the government is voted upon. I thought those people were also voted upon by the people.
Yes. Well, we elect representatives to vote for us. The Electoral College is complicated, and that's a whole other debate on whether we should have that. The point is, checks and balances are only in place to counter opposing power. But when all the branches of the government have the same power and they all agree, there's nothing to check. They're all just going to vote for what they believe in. When they have the same belief, they can make any decision, and they're all, hey, buddy, you can vote for whatever you want to.
I guess it's possible, but how rare would that be?
And it's happened multiple times in our nation's history. More common than you would expect.
So that's a problem we should look out for, just in any scenario. Yeah. So that's why you take that side.
Yeah, that's actually why I write a lot about how a two-party political system, or at least two parties, is necessary, and disagreement is almost necessary for the survival of any nation. Because if you have complete agreement and even if in the government, no one's saying, hey, that you can't do this, the opposing power. Though it gets annoying and a little much at times, we're like pointing out every flaw. When you don't point out the flaws and there's no one to do that, then the government has. I claim in my writing, that's the ultimate check for balance.
Yeah, because I feel like that would fall into a point where if you spoke out, everyone in the world would go against you because there's no second party.
Yeah.
That'd be a problem.
And we kind of even saw that in the era of good feelings with, I think it was either Madison or Monroe, I'm not sure, but it was, it wasn't an era of good feelings, it was kind of a gilded, didn't look what it really was era, but there was only one party, and there wasn't much disagreement amongst them, though small problems were arising, or quote-unquote small, like slavery, and that eventually tear the nation apart. But
so if that happened, do you think maybe someone forced themselves to think things to make that second party to fix everything? Or do you think that someone was, like, there was a society that was secretly rising up to become another one of those parties?
To be honest, I never think it was one true party. I think the War of 1812 was just over. I think it was more of a patriotic thing rather than we all agree, because there were still small divisions. And that's not even the best point, because I'm sure people were speaking out against what they were doing, because the Federalist Party had just been basically destroyed after they basically committed treason against the nation in the War of 1812, helping the British who we were fighting. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's not the greatest example, but the point is a one-party system without anybody pointing out the flaws in that party or in that government or in the power is extremely dangerous to any nation.
Okay.